Hey everyone, welcome to my video. So my first wreath for today, I've got this beautiful white, blue, green, pink, pastel colored deco mesh that I got from Craft Outlet. I've got these two gorgeous ribbons to match, and both of these were from Craft Outlet. They are wired ribbon. Don't mind I write the cost of the rolls when I buy it on there, so I know what to charge when I'm selling the wreaths. And this gorgeous Easter wreath I got from Craft Outlet as well. And then I've got this 14-inch wreath frame from the Dollar Tree, along with some pipe cleaners that I got from Hobby Lobby. You know, around spring or Easter time, they sell a big multicolored pack, and that's what I got them from. So here I'm just going to remove the tag off of the wreath frame. And I'm going to start putting on my pipe cleaners. So I'll show you here in a minute, but right in the middle, right in the inner two rings, I put one pipe cleaner. And on the two outer rings, I put two pipe cleaners. And I'll do that throughout the entire wreath frame. So there's 6 sections to the wreath frame. And if I do 3 in each, that's a total of 18 pipe cleaners that I use. Now here is the crossbars that I'm trying to show you in the palms of my hands. And in between those crossbars, that's a section. It's your inner two and your outer two rings that I was talking about placing the pipe cleaners on. And so I'll go ahead and finish adding on my pipe cleaners. Excuse me. So I've got 2 rolls of this deco mesh. And what I'm going to do is I want one roll to cover a half of the wreath frame. So I'll have 9 pipe cleaners to put them in. And these are 360 inches long. So that means I cut mine at 40 inches. You just take the 360 and divide it by the 9 pipe cleaners, and that's how you get your length. Now, you don't have to. You could cut it at 30 if you want to, but this is how I like to do it most of the time, just for the simple fact is I don't like small tidbits on my deco mesh roll. It just clutters my place. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to do a cruffle method, and with the curl side going up, I'm just rolling it about 3 times, and then I'll turn it around and roll it again another 3 times. And then I will take and walk my fingers up like you do with the regular ruffle method, and that's why it's called a cruffle. Excuse me, guys. I don't know what's going on with my throat. I think it's just the weather changing all the time. So once I do that, I've got it in my hand, and I make sure that you are actually putting it in the pipe cleaner in the middle of your deco mesh right there. And I say that because I think it's on this one. If you see how the part on the left is bigger than the part on the right where the pink is, it's not gonna look right when it's full. When all the when all the deco mesh is on there, you're gonna have some that stands up higher, which would be the left hand side. So I go back and I make sure I get it pretty close to the middle as I can. Sorry if you hear the noise, that's my dog walking around. Anyways, so I went ahead and put it back in there in the middle, and then I'm just going to do the same thing. Now, one thing I do like to note is when I'm making the curls, I like to leave bigger natural curls. I know that there's some people that like to do the really tight curls. I think it takes away from the curl, the appearance of the curl. There's really no need to make it really tight, because then your curls tend to be like really small, and they just, to me, they don't look right. I'm not knocking anybody else on how they do it. I'm just telling you how I do it and what it looks like to me. So this is what I like to do, is the big natural curls, but you can definitely do the smaller curls if you want to. So here I'm just placing it into the second pipe cleaner. And I tell you, you know, when you have two rolls like this, once you put all the deco mesh on, it is pretty full. I mean, even when you get three pieces in like a section, I mean, it already looks pretty full. But here it is with half of it on, and you can see how full this wreath really looks. And I just absolutely love this deco mesh. It's the first time I got it from Craft Outlet. I don't remember seeing it before, but I absolutely love it. So now that I've put all my deco mesh on my wreath, I'm measuring out my ribbon to 14 inches. I personally, again, like to do my ribbon tails on a wreath of this type at 14 inches. Excuse me. 13 inches to me is okay. I've seen some people go a little smaller, but the smaller you go, the less of the ribbon you will see. Now, I definitely wouldn't go any more than 14. I think that's really a perfect length. But if you've maybe have a smaller roll that you use just a little bit of on something else, you could probably get away with doing the 13-inch tails. So I'm just cutting out, I think it was 16 pieces. Here I'm just cutting out 2, but in total I think 16. I'm just trying to show you here how I do it. So again, on my 1.5 inch, if you guys have watched me before, I like to cut my 1.5 inch at an angle, where my 2.5 inch ribbon I like to cut in a dovetail fashion. So what I'll do, and look at this big gorgeous wreath. I love it. Another tip, when you're putting your deco mesh on, pull those pipe cleaners up to the center, because it'll be a lot easier to see. So here I just crisscrossed the 2 deco mesh, found the middle, gathered them in the middle, and I pinched it together, and then I kind of folded it in half in the way it's going to go into the pipe cleaner. So I do not undo my pipe cleaner. You can if you want to, but I don't. It makes no sense for me to do it because I don't gain anything from it. And here I am just doing the same method again, pinching it in the middle. I'm curling out the ends of the tails, and then I fold it in the middle, and I'm about to place it right into the pipe cleaner. And what I don't show is that I basically just took the leftover pipe cleaner and folded it under and tucked it underneath the deco mesh, but you can cut it off if you want. You can take a pin or something and kind of wrap the tail of the pipe cleaner around it and make it look like a little curl. Totally up to you. So I've got these cable mounts that I got from, I think it was Amazon. Yeah, I believe it was Amazon. And I am just taking the cover off of those, the little thin film. Now, let me tell you, because this sign gave me fits. And it's actually, I've done plenty of signs like this, but for some reason, this sign, I probably just didn't let it dry enough. And I probably put a little too much super glue on there. So, excuse me. What I should have done is actually put these mounts on before I made the wreath. That way it had more time to dry. But I had one of them that just kept popping off. So I did have to go back and move it into a different, just a little hair in a different location on the sign. And then I took some hot glue and ran it all around the perimeter of each of those cable mounts and had to let it dry. And it worked better. So if you're going to use super glue, use just a little amount. Otherwise, I would say don't use it at all. So here I'm about to make my bows, and I don't know how much is left on my ribbon spools. So what I did is I just took it completely off. And since I know I'm doing 2 bows, I take this large piece and I divide it into 2. And I'm going to do that with the 2 spools I was working with. And then I do bring a yellow plaid in that you'll see in a minute. It's a 1.5 inch plaid. And I bring that in because there wasn't that much on a spool, and I use that as well. So I do 8-inch tails, and I start off with 6-inch loops. And I think I do 2 loops on each side. So this is the yellow plaid. It was a spring ribbon I got also from Craft Outlet a couple years ago. And I had bought like one of those 50-yard spools. So I got a lot of good use out of this one. So I'm still making all the tails at 8 inches. But what I do is I go down about 1/2 inch. And I make these loops about 5.5 inches long. I believe I do 4 with this one as well. I'm just trying to make sure that my loops are going to be pretty even and stuff. Okay, so I guess this one, since it was actually, I had more left on the roll than I did with the other blue ones, I went ahead and made 3 loops on one side and 2 on the other. So with this 1.5 inch, I actually do 4 full loops at 5 inches, and then I do put a little small loop for the middle of the bow. Now I just go back and, cut my ribbon either at a slant or a dovetail, and then I will get a pipe cleaner and bring it all together. Now when I grab mine out of my bow out of the holder, I do try to make sure I hold on it pretty tight. I've done it before where I wasn't paying attention and I let go, and then my whole bow is just done for. So I just take my pipe cleaner and attach it. Now when I'm attaching the pipe cleaner too, I like to pinch down on the bow to get it as tightly together as possible. And and do tight twists when I'm turning the pipe cleaner. It is helpful too that if you turn the bow instead of the pipe cleaner, but sometimes I don't do it that way, just not thinking, you know. So I take and I weed through some of the deco mesh and wrap the pipe cleaner around the wire frame. And then I try to make sure it's not too tight so my bow does not sink into the wreath. And then once I've got it pretty tight, as like I like it, then I go ahead and start fluffing out my ribbon loops and tails. Now, if you haven't attached a bow before, what I used to do to get until I got used to, you know, a pretty good judge of how tight I need to make the bow is I would, oh my goodness, I had a brain fart, guys. I'm so sorry. I would leave it, I wouldn't tie it too tight. I'd leave it a little loose, and then that way I could, you know, kind of see how the bow was going to act when I was fluffing it, and then I could go back and tighten it down if I needed to. So I've got both of my bows on right here, and now I'm just taking that sign and trying to attach it, doing the same thing, weeding the pipe cleaners through the deco mesh so I can attach it to the wire wreath frame. Excuse me. So here this is. I love it. It's so beautiful. I just absolutely love the colors and the bow and just everything about it. I mean, this is a very festive spring and Easter wreath, in my opinion. I just love it. So on for our second and last wreath of the video. I've got this grapevine wreath from Hobby Lobby. These two bunches that is in my right hand came from Craft Outlet, and then these bunches, the mums and the daisies here, they came from the Dollar Tree. And I got this little cute wooden bunny sign for Easter, and I got that off of Temu. It comes with your little jute cord to hang it, but I don't use that. I actually use something else to attach it. So I got these two pretty ribbon that I'm showing you. They're both from Craft Outlet. I planned on using them, but you'll see I did not end up using them. I had actually brought in some more floral, some more greenery, actually, not more flowers, but I brought in more greenery, and it filled up the wreath pretty well. So I'm just going to start off by trying to take these tags off from the Dollar Tree, and I figured it's just easier to pull off the flower and pull off the little tag than it is to try to struggle with it. So that's what I do nowadays. As you see, I've got some of these ferns, I think, and they came up at the top left hand corner, and they came from the Dollar Tree. And so what I'm actually going to do is put in some florals, and I separate them to even amounts because I like things symmetrical. And so I got half of the flowers that's going to go on the bottom and half that's going to go on the top. And then what I'll do also, once I get the flowers in the bottom section, I'll go ahead and add some of the greenery to fill it in. And I did like the fern, but it still wasn't enough for me. So what I did is, you'll see that I put some boxwood in there. I had another boxwood wreath I made, and I just took the leaves off of there. But the boxwood actually came from Walmart, and I think they were like 97 cents a bunch. But as you see, my stems for the flowers and such are pretty long, and I decided to use hot glue. Now, if you plan on making a lot of grapevine wreaths, you can always get like a hot glue skillet where you can get the hot glue pellets and put it in the skillet, and what it does is melts all the hot glue, so you can just actually dip your stem in it and not have to do what I'm doing. A lot easier, but I haven't gotten around to buying one. Maybe I will. But yes, I like to leave my stems long because to me it gets into the grapevine wreath more, and I don't know. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I might just be crazy, but sometimes it just feels like I get more security with a longer piece. I could be wrong. But if you choose to use the longer pieces, the stems, make sure when you're done that they're not poking out the back. If they do, all you got to do is just clip them off. That's what I do. So you can just see that I'm adding the different greenery in here, and this is just, I love how it looks. To me, I started using the boxwood too because I didn't like how some of the florals were laying down. I would bend it to kind of sit them up more, but for some reason, I don't know, they weren't perking up as much as I wanted them to. So the boxwood and the fern actually helped to make the flowers sit up real pretty. So here I'm going to use the cable mounts again. I did not use any super glue because I didn't want to have to wait and all that stuff. But I do add the hot glue around the, around the cable mounts and let that dry. Then I just use some good old floral wire, and that's what I'll put in there to adjust. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I've just got off working 10 hours, and my mind is like kind of a little fried, so I apologize. So I put it in there, and then I just twist it really good, and I make sure it's really tight, and then I'm going to use this to attach it to my grapevine wreath. Yes, there are holes, but you'll see what I do to kind of correct that. Now, doesn't that not look so pretty? Had I had more flowers, I probably could have just skipped the whole sign, but I didn't. But still, I just think this is so gorgeous. Now, I just wrapped the wire around the wreath. You can try to poke them through the wreath frame. That was not going to be me because I had the thin, flimsy wire, so it was going to be a little more difficult. So you see right there, I'm actually trying to put a little bit of hot glue, and you'll see me struggle for a second. But I was trying to put the smallest piece of hot glue on that boxwood leaf because it's plastic, and I didn't want to melt it, but I was trying to get it to lock that boxwood in place because now you can't see that hole that was there. So for the other hole, I do take this little ribbon and I'm making a little bow tie. So I make a little circle at first, then I twist it and make a little bit bigger circle at the bottom. This is the easiest bow you can make. And then I just bring down the middle of the top circle and pinch it down and use some pipe cleaner to get it together. And there you go. You got your 2 loops, and here I'm just cutting the tails. Easiest bow you can make. Well, I know a lot of people like to do the shoelace or the awareness ribbon one, but I just don't like where the placement of the tails are. I like both of the tails to be behind the loops. So here's the final product. I want to thank you guys for stopping and watching, and if you will, leave me a comment. Let me know what your favorite one was, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a blessed week.